Security guards drag an elegantly dressed black woman through marble lobby doors while horrified guests watch and film. The Grand Meridian Hotel's opulent lobby erupts in chaos as two uniformed guards forcibly escort Dr. Amara Sterling toward the exit. Her $3,000 tailored charcoal suit contrasts sharply with their rough handling. Her designer briefcase spilling documents across the Italian marble floor like scattered evidence of injustice. Hotel manager Derek Walsh stands behind the mahogany reception desk, arms crossed, a satisfied smirk playing across his weathered face. "Maybe next time you'll think twice about causing trouble in a respectable establishment," he calls out, his voice carrying across the stunned lobby. Guests freeze mid-conversation, smartphones appearing as they capture the unfolding scene. An elderly businessman lowers his newspaper. A young mother pulls her child closer. The afternoon crowd becomes an unwilling audience to systematic humiliation. Amara maintains perfect composure despite the indignity, her chin raised, her dark eyes steady. She doesn't resist, doesn't shout, doesn't give them the reaction they expect. Her silence is more unnerving than any protest would be. The marble reflects her image as she's marched toward the revolving doors, a successful woman being treated like a criminal in broad daylight. The click of her heels echoes through the lobby like a countdown. 9 minutes later, she'll return. But this time, she won't be leaving. This time, she'll be cleaning house. What would you do if you were kicked out of your own business? Drop your location in the comments. The woman they just humiliated owns everything they think they control. 3 hours earlier, Dr. Amara Sterling's black Tesla Model S glides into the Grand Meridian Hotel's circular drive. The afternoon sun catches the vehicle's pristine finish as the valet, Marcus Thompson, approaches with practiced professionalism. At 19, Marcus moves with the careful efficiency of someone who understands that every interaction could determine his future. Amara steps out, her presence commanding without being ostentatious. The CEO of Sterling Hospitality Group has flown in from New York for an unannounced inspection of her flagship property, a routine she maintains across all 47 hotels in her empire. The $2.3 billion company she built from a single inherited motel operates on a simple principle. Authentic service quality can only be measured when leadership remains invisible. Marcus offers a genuine smile as he accepts her keys. "Welcome to the Grand Meridian, ma'am. I hope you enjoy your stay." The lobby's soaring ceilings and crystal chandeliers create an atmosphere of refined luxury. Guests move through the space with the unhurried confidence that significant money affords. Amara approaches the reception desk where Derek Walsh immediately sizes her up, his trained hospitality smile faltering as his eyes register her skin color before her expensive attire. "Good afternoon. How may I assist you?" Derek's tone carries a subtle chill that wouldn't be noticeable to casual observers. But Amara's decades in business have sharpened her ability to detect bias in its earliest stages. "I'd like to reserve the penthouse suite," Amara states clearly, placing her black American Express Centurion card on the marble counter. Derek's eyebrows raise slightly. He picks up the card as if it might be contaminated, turning it over with exaggerated scrutiny. "The penthouse suite is quite expensive. Are you certain you can afford our rates?" The question hangs in the air like smoke. Nearby, a white businessman in a similar suit receives champagne and warm conversation from assistant manager Jessica Anderson, who treats his presence as an honor rather than a burden. "I'm quite certain," Amara responds evenly, watching Derek run her card through the system once, then twice, claiming technical difficulties that seem to affect only her transaction. Jessica whispers something to Derek, her eyes flicking toward Amara with barely concealed disdain. The words "her type" drift across the reception area, spoken just loudly enough to be heard but quietly enough to maintain plausible deniability. Marcus watches the interaction from the valet stand, his stomach tightening as he recognizes the systematic bias he's witnessed countless times. The difference in treatment is stark and intentional, but speaking up would mean risking the job that helps support his younger sister's college tuition. Derek finally processes the payment, his demeanor suggesting he's doing Amara an enormous favor. Room 4701. The elevator is to your right. No welcome amenities, no concierge introduction, no explanation of hotel services. Courtesies automatically extended to every other guest. Amara accepts her keycard without comment, filing away every microaggression for future reference. Her grandmother's voice echoes in her memory. Baby, when someone shows you who they are, believe them the first time. Derek's racism is about to escalate beyond mere discourtesy into criminal territory. The penthouse suite tells a story of deliberate sabotage. Amara steps into the sweltering room where the air conditioning churns uselessly, producing nothing but noise. The thermostat reads 85 degrees. Stained sheets lie crumpled on the unmade bed, and the marble bathroom shows clear evidence of previous occupancy. Towels on the floor, soap scum on surfaces, someone else's toiletries abandoned on the counter. This isn't neglect. This is intentional. Amara photographs everything with methodical precision before calling the front desk. Derek's voice carries false concern when he answers. Grand Meridian, this is Derek. How may I help you? This is Dr. Sterling in the penthouse suite. The room is unacceptable. The air conditioning is broken, the bed is unmade, and the bathroom hasn't been cleaned. Oh my. Derek's tone suggests he's reading from a script. I'm terribly sorry to hear that. Unfortunately, we're completely booked tonight. No other rooms available. The lie is smooth and practiced. Amara had noticed the occupancy board behind the reception desk showing 60% capacity. I'd like to speak with the general manager, please. You're speaking with him. I am the general manager. Derek's voice takes on an edge of authority mixed with condescension. Ma'am, I understand you're disappointed, but perhaps the Holiday Inn down the street would better suit your needs. The pause before needs carries decades of coded racism. Amara's legal training kicks in, cataloging each violation for future reference. Her voice remains steady. I'll be down to discuss this in person. That's really not necessary. Amara ends the call. In the lobby, Derek positions himself near the concierge desk like a general preparing for battle. When Amara approaches, he intercepts her path. Ma'am, I told you we'd handle your concerns over the phone. There's no need to make a scene. I haven't made a scene. I've simply requested the service I paid for. Ma'am, I'm going to have to ask you to lower your voice. You're disturbing other guests. Amara hasn't raised her voice at all. The accusation is designed to create a narrative to paint her as the aggressive party in front of witnesses. Other guests begin to notice the confrontation, some pulling out phones to record what they assume will be entertainment. Jessica Anderson appears with her smartphone, discreetly filming what she believes will be social media content about difficult customers. Her finger hovers over the record button, ready to capture Amara's downfall. Derek's performance intensifies for his growing audience. I've tried to work with you, but you're being unreasonable. I'm calling security. Marcus watches from across the lobby, his hands clenching as he recognizes the setup. He's seen this pattern before, the way Derek manufactures conflict with guests of color, then uses their justified frustration as evidence of their unworthiness. Security is about to turn Derek's racism into everyone else's liability. The hotel's security guards respond to Derek's call with disturbing efficiency. Steve Morrison, a former police officer whose retirement from the force involved excessive force complaints, arrives first. His partner Rick Patterson follows, younger and eager to prove himself worthy of Steve's approval. Neither man questions Derek's account. They don't ask to see evidence of the alleged fraud or aggressive behavior. They don't request payment records or witness statements. They simply accept the word of the white manager against the black guest. Ma'am, you need to come with us, Steve commands, his voice carrying the authority of someone accustomed to being obeyed without question. Amara remains perfectly still. I'd like to show you my payment confirmation and discuss this situation calmly. We don't have time for games, Rick interjects, moving to her left side while Steve takes her right. The choreography is practiced, designed to intimidate through positioning. Derek orchestrates the humiliation with theatrical precision. His voice carries across the marble lobby, ensuring maximum audience participation. This woman attempted to defraud the hotel by claiming she paid for the penthouse suite. When confronted, she became aggressive and threatening. The gathered crowd shifts uncomfortably. Some guests sense the injustice but remain silent. Others begin recording, drawn by the spectacle. A few whisper among themselves, their conversations a mix of concern and morbid curiosity. "I have my receipt right here," Amara says calmly, reaching for her phone. "Don't reach for anything," Steve barks, his hand moving instinctively toward his belt where a weapon would normally rest. Old habits from his police days die hard. Jessica films eagerly, adding commentary for her social media post. "Some people think they can just walk into luxury hotels and demand free rooms, but we maintain standards here." Her caption will read, #customer service, #no nonsense, #security first. When Amara attempts to show her payment confirmation, Derek dismisses it without examination. "Anyone can fake a receipt these days. I'm not falling for scams." The security guards move closer, their presence designed to escalate rather than de-escalate. "Ma'am, we can do this easy or hard," Steve warns, his voice carrying implications that make nearby guests uncomfortable. Amara makes a strategic decision. Resistance will be twisted into aggression. Any movement will be interpreted as violence. Any words will be dismissed as lies. She allows them to guide her toward the exit, maintaining her dignity even as they strip away her rights. Her briefcase falls open during the forced march, scattering business cards and legal documents across the floor. Derek kicks at the papers dismissively, not bothering to read what might identify her true position. Marcus catches sight of a scattered business card bearing the Sterling Hospitality Group logo. His eyes widen as pieces begin connecting, but Derek's intimidating presence keeps him silent. The marble floors reflect the procession like a fun-house mirror, doubling the visual impact of injustice in motion. Amara's designer heels click steadily against the stone, each step echoing like a metronome counting down to Derek's destruction. Other guests fumble with their phones, capturing a moment they'll later wish they had interrupted. Their silence makes them complicit in the performance of institutional racism. Derek follows the procession, his voice carrying across the lobby like a ringmaster announcing the main event. "This is what happens when people try to take advantage of respectable establishments. We don't tolerate fraud here." Derek just committed the most expensive mistake in hospitality industry history. The sidewalk outside the Grand Meridian Hotel bustles with typical afternoon activity. Business travelers wheel luggage toward waiting taxis. Tourists consult maps and smartphones. Life continues with indifferent normalcy while Amara Sterling stands in the shadow of injustice, her professional composure intact despite the public humiliation. She doesn't scream. She doesn't threaten. She doesn't even look back at the imposing glass facade that houses her own property. Instead, she pulls out her phone and begins the methodical process of documenting everything with surgical precision. Documentation log, Grand Meridian Hotel, 2:47 p.m. She speaks quietly into her voice recorder. Systematic discrimination witnessed and experienced by CEO during unannounced property inspection. Staff involved: Derek Walsh, General Manager, Jessica Anderson, Assistant Manager, Steve Morrison, and Rick Patterson, Security personnel. Multiple federal and state civil rights violations observed. Her first call goes to David Bennett, her head of security and former FBI investigative specialist. "David, I need a comprehensive background check on Derek Walsh at the Grand Meridian. Employment history, previous complaints, social media presence, financial records, legal issues, full report within 60 minutes. "What level of priority?" David asks, recognizing the steel in her voice. "Priority 1, career-ending priority. Next, she contacts Patricia Williams, her chief legal counsel. Patricia, prepare discrimination lawsuits against the Grand Meridian Hotel and Derek Walsh personally. Federal civil rights violations, intentional infliction of emotional distress, defamation. I want injunctive relief and maximum damages. I'll have video evidence within the hour. While making calls, she notices Marcus approaching nervously from the hotel entrance. The young valet glances back repeatedly, clearly terrified of being seen talking to her. Ma'am, I'm so sorry about what happened in there. That wasn't right. That wasn't professional. Amara studies his face, recognizing genuine remorse beneath the fear. What's your name? Marcus Thompson, ma'am. I've worked here 8 months. Marcus, I want you to remember this moment. Sometimes standing up for what's right costs something in the short term, but staying silent always costs more in the long term. Her third call reaches Rachel Martinez, Director of Corporate Communications. Rachel, we need a comprehensive media strategy. Every hospitality trade publication, local news station, and social media platform needs to understand what happened here today, but we do this professionally, facts only, documentation only, no emotional appeals. The final call goes to her executive assistant. Schedule an emergency board meeting for 5:00 p.m., conference room 7, full attendance required. Tell them we have a situation requiring immediate action regarding the Grand Meridian property. As she waits for her driver, Amara reflects on her grandmother's wisdom. Baby, when someone shows you who they are, believe them the first time. But when they underestimate who you are, teach them a lesson they'll never forget. She opens her laptop, fingers flying across the keyboard as she compiles a detailed incident report. Every discriminatory comment gets documented with exact timestamps. Every policy violation gets cross-referenced with federal regulations. Every witness gets identified for potential testimony. Her phone buzzes with incoming intelligence from David Bennett. Derek Walsh's background reveals a disturbing pattern. 14 formal discrimination complaints over 15 years, 12 involving staff or guests of color. Multiple settlements paid quietly by previous employers. Social media posts that should have disqualified him from hospitality management. The pattern is clear, documented, and legally actionable. Marcus approaches one final time before her car arrives. Ma'am, there's something you should know. Mr. Walsh has been treating people differently for as long as I've worked here. The other staff, we see it, but we're scared to speak up. Fear is understandable, Marcus, but courage is a choice. Remember that in the days ahead. Derek thinks he's won, but Amara's about to flip every card on the table. Inside the Grand Meridian Hotel, Derek Walsh basks in the afterglow of what he considers a masterful performance. He returns to the front desk where Jessica Anderson and other staff members gather around him like courtiers, celebrating their king's victory. That's how you handle troublemakers, Derek announces, his chest puffed with misplaced pride. 15 years in this business, and I can spot a scammer from across the lobby. You have to be firm with people like that, or they'll walk all over you. Jessica nods eagerly, still clutching her phone with the recorded footage. Should I post this to our social media? Show people we don't tolerate nonsense? Absolutely. Let everyone know the Grand Meridian maintains standards. Derek's smile widens as he imagines the viral potential of his heroic stand against fraud. The afternoon shift staff listens to Derek's embellished retelling of events. With each version, Amara becomes more aggressive, more threatening, more deserving of forcible removal. Derek transforms himself from racist perpetrator to protective hero, crafting a narrative that absolves him of any wrongdoing. She tried to intimidate me with that fancy card, he explains to the housekeeping supervisor, but I've seen every scam in the book. Some people think they can throw their weight around in luxury hotels, but not on my watch. However, not everyone buys the performance. Maria Santos, the housekeeping supervisor, has worked at the Grand Meridian for 8 years. She's witnessed Derek's pattern of treating guests and employees of color differently, though she's remained silent to protect her job and support her family. Marcus Thompson grows increasingly agitated as he listens to Derek's fiction. The scattered business cards he glimpsed earlier haunt his memory. He discreetly searches Sterling Hospitality Group on his phone during his break, and Amara's professional headshot appears on the company website as CEO and founder. His hands shake as the implications crystallize. Derek didn't just discriminate against a random guest, he humiliated the owner of the entire hotel chain. Derek notices Marcus's distress and misinterprets it as guilt over siding with the troublemaker. He approaches the young man with paternal condescension.
Marcus, I saw you talking to that woman outside. I hope you understand why we had to take action. We can't let people think they can take advantage of us.
Yes, sir, Marcus responds quietly, his voice barely concealing his growing horror. Good. Loyalty matters in this business. You need to know which side you're on. Derek's words carry an implicit threat that Marcus recognizes immediately. Meanwhile, Jessica's social media posts begin gaining traction, but not in the way she anticipated. Comments flood in from viewers who recognize systematic discrimination when they see it. Many share their own experiences with workplace and service industry racism. The hotel's official accounts receive increasingly angry messages demanding explanations. Derek's phone rings with what he assumes is congratulatory call from corporate headquarters. Instead, it's a local news reporter asking about allegations of discrimination at the hotel. Derek's confident demeanor cracks slightly as he realizes the story is spreading beyond his control. I don't know what you're talking about, he lies smoothly. We had a routine trespassing issue, nothing more. But the reporter has already received video footage from multiple sources and is working with civil rights organizations to verify the details. Derek's victory celebration is about to become a nightmare he never saw coming. Escalation 2. 1 hour after the incident, Derek's phone erupts with calls he didn't expect. The first comes from Sarah Anderson, an investigative reporter for Channel 7 News, whose questions shatter his manufactured confidence. Mr. Walsh, we've received multiple reports about a discrimination incident at your hotel today. Can you comment on allegations that you had a black guest forcibly removed based on racial bias? Derek's smooth hospitality voice falters. That's completely false. We had a routine trespassing situation. The individual was attempting to defraud the hotel. We have video footage showing the guest presenting valid payment confirmation which you refuse to examine. How do you explain that? The phone trembles in Derek's hand. I don't know what footage you think you have, but I acted appropriately according to hotel policy. After hanging up, Derek immediately calls an emergency staff meeting. His usual commanding presence is replaced by barely controlled panic as he addresses the assembled employees in the hotel's conference room. Listen carefully. If anyone from the media contacts you, refer them directly to me. Do not discuss today's incident with anyone outside this hotel. Anyone who speaks to reporters without authorization will face immediate disciplinary action. The staff exchanges nervous glances. They recognize crisis management when they see it, and Derek's threatening tone confirms their growing suspicions that something has gone terribly wrong. Jessica's social media strategy backfires spectacularly. Her Instagram posts, tagged with the hotel's official accounts, become lightning rods for public outrage. Comments pour in faster than she can delete them. This is disgusting racism in 2025. I'm canceling my reservation immediately. How is this manager still employed? Someone needs to investigate this hotel's practices. Screenshots of her posts spread across Twitter and TikTok, amplifying the story beyond her ability to contain. The hotel's official accounts receive hundreds of negative reviews and boycott threats within hours. Derek storms over to Jessica's workstation. Delete those posts immediately, all of them. But sir, you told me to... I don't care what I told you before. Delete them now before this gets worse. Jessica's hands shake as she tries to remove the content, But it's too late. Screenshots have been captured and shared thousands of times. The internet never forgets, and digital evidence is permanent. The hotel's corporate office begins receiving calls from angry customers, civil rights organizations, and legal representatives. Derek's phone rings constantly with increasingly frantic messages from regional management demanding explanations he can't provide. Marcus Thompson finally approaches Maria Santos during their break. "Maria, we need to talk. I think I know who that woman really was." He shows her Amara's photo on the Sterling Hospitality Group website. Maria's face goes pale as she reads the title, CEO and founder. "Dios mío," she whispers. "What has Derek done?" Their conversation draws the attention of other staff members, and whispered speculation spreads through the hotel like wildfire. Derek notices the huddles of worried employees and becomes increasingly paranoid. "Everyone back to work!" he shouts, his authority cracking under pressure. "Stop gossiping and focus on your jobs, or start looking for new ones." Derek's about to discover that some mistakes are too big to threaten away. By 4:00 p.m., the Grand Meridian Hotel lobby buzzes with an electricity that has nothing to do with normal hospitality operations. News vans begin positioning outside the building as word spreads through both traditional media and social platforms. Derek watches through the floor-to-ceiling windows as reporters set up equipment on the sidewalk where he had Amara humiliated just hours earlier. His phone rings with a call that makes his blood freeze. Regional Manager Patricia Williams' voice cuts through his remaining composure like a blade through silk. "Derek, what the hell happened down there? I've got Sterling Hospitality Group's legal team on my other line, and they're talking about federal discrimination lawsuits." Derek's world tilts on its axis. "Sterling Hospitality Group? What do they have to do with anything?" "They own our hotel chain, Derek. They're our parent company." Patricia's voice carries the chill of professional death. "And apparently, you just had their CEO physically removed from her own property." The phone nearly slips from Derek's sweating palm. With trembling fingers, he opens his laptop and searches for Sterling Hospitality Group CEO. Amara Sterling's professional headshot fills his screen. The same dignified woman he had dragged through his lobby 3 hours ago, now smiling back at him from the company website with the quiet confidence of someone who owns everything he thought he controlled. Jessica Anderson notices Derek's panic attack and approaches cautiously. "Mr. Walsh, is everything okay?" Derek turns his laptop screen toward her, his face the color of ash. Look at what we did." Jessica's social media expertise makes her recognize the implications immediately. Oh my God, we're so dead. We're so completely dead." The security guards, Steve Morrison and Rick Patterson, receive simultaneous calls from their supervisor. Their security company holds contracts worth millions with Sterling Hospitality Group, and those contracts include strict anti-discrimination clauses that they just violated on camera. "You're both terminated effective immediately," their supervisor explains curtly. "Clean out your lockers and turn in your uniforms, and don't bother using us as a reference." Marcus Thompson and Maria Santos watch Derek's meltdown from across the lobby. "Should we feel sorry for him?" Marcus asks quietly. Maria shakes her head, thinking of her daughter and the world she wants to leave behind. "He made his choices, mijo. We all have to live with the consequences of our choices." Derek attempts to call Amara directly, but her assistant screens every communication. "Ms. Sterling is unavailable. All inquiries should be directed through our legal department." The hotel's afternoon occupancy begins dropping as guests check out early, unwilling to stay at a property associated with racial discrimination. The concierge desk fields dozens of cancellation calls as word spreads through social media and news coverage. Derek's phone rings again. This time, it's the hotel's board of directors requesting his immediate presence for an emergency meeting. He knows this is the call that ends his 15-year career in hospitality management. Patricia Williams' voice crackles through his earpiece one final time. "Don't make this worse than it already is, Derek. Whatever you do, Don't try to contact Ms. Sterling again. Derek's about to face the woman he humiliated, but this time she holds every single card. At exactly 5:13 p.m., 9 minutes after Derek's emergency board meeting begins, Amara Sterling walks back through the Grand Meridian Hotel's revolving doors. This time, she doesn't enter alone. Her entourage includes 3 corporate attorneys, 2 security specialists, a forensic accountant, and a documentation team equipped with cameras and recording equipment. The lobby falls silent as recognition ripples through the space. Guests who witnessed her humiliation hours earlier now watch her return with the quiet authority of someone who owns everything they see. The marble floors that reflected her forced exit now showcase her triumphant re-entry. Derek sits in the hotel's boardroom, flanked by regional manager Patricia Williams and the property's general counsel. His face has gone gray as he watches Amara approach through the conference room's glass walls. The confident hotel manager who orchestrated her humiliation has been replaced by a man who understands his career is over. Amara enters the conference room without knocking. She doesn't sit at the polished table. Instead, she stands at its head, her presence commanding immediate attention. Her briefcase opens with a precise click, revealing documents organized with military efficiency. "Mr. Walsh," she begins, her voice carrying the measured authority of someone accustomed to boardroom combat. 3 hours and 26 minutes ago, you had me physically removed from this property. You claimed I was trespassing, attempting fraud, and exhibiting aggressive behavior. You instructed your security team to forcibly eject me from my own hotel. Derek's mouth opens and closes soundlessly. Ms. Sterling, I had no way of knowing. You had no way of knowing because you didn't care to know. Amara cuts him off with surgical precision. You made assumptions based solely on my race. You denied me service, refused to examine my payment confirmation, and orchestrated a public humiliation designed to maximize shame and minimize my dignity. She places a tablet on the conference table, showing security footage from multiple angles. This is what actually happened. No raised voices from me, no aggressive behavior, no fraudulent activity, just a black woman attempting to receive the service she paid for and being denied that service because of her skin color. Patricia Williams shifts uncomfortably as she watches the footage. As regional manager, she's aware of previous complaints about Derek's behavior but failed to take decisive action. Her inaction has now cost the company millions in potential damages and immeasurable reputational harm. The evidence is comprehensive, Amara continues, advancing to the next slide. Hotel security cameras, guest recordings, social media posts by your staff celebrating the discrimination, and witness testimony from multiple sources. This isn't he said, she said. This is documented, systematic racial discrimination. Derek attempts one final desperate plea. Ms. Sterling, I know I made mistakes, but I can change. I can do better. I've been with this company for 15 years. I have a family, a mortgage. Mr. Walsh, you've had 15 years to examine your biases and modify your behavior. Instead, you created an environment where discrimination flourished. Amara's voice remains steady, but her words cut deep. I have documentation showing 14 formal complaints about your discriminatory conduct over your tenure here. 14 opportunities to change. 14 warnings you ignored. She clicks to the next presentation slide, revealing Derek's social media history. Posts containing coded racist language, shares of discriminatory content, and interactions that should have disqualified him from hospitality management years ago. Your employment is terminated effective immediately. Security will escort you from the premises through the same doors you had me dragged through. The difference is, you deserve this treatment. I didn't. Derek's final attempt at dignity crumbles. This isn't fair. I was just doing my job. Your job was to provide excellent service to all guests, regardless of race. Your job was to uphold the values of this company. Your job was to create an inclusive environment. Amara's composure never wavers. You failed at every aspect of your job. She addresses the room's other occupants.
Jessica Anderson will also be terminated for her role in documenting and celebrating discriminatory behavior on social media. The security personnel have been dismissed by their company, but individual accountability is only the beginning. The next slide reveals a comprehensive reform initiative. Every Sterling Hospitality Group property will implement new anti-discrimination protocols within 30 days. Mandatory bias training, independent reporting systems, third-party audits, and clear consequences for discriminatory behavior at all levels. As Derek is escorted from the building by the same security team that removed Amara, she addresses the remaining staff through the hotel's intercom system. To those who remained silent today, your silence enabled discrimination. To those who wanted to speak up but felt afraid, your courage matters more than your fear. Moving forward, everyone will be part of the solution, not part of the problem. The conference room empties except for Amara and her legal team. Through the windows, they watch Derek's final walk through the lobby, no longer the powerful manager who controlled access and dignity, but a cautionary tale about the true cost of racism. Derek's personal destruction is just the opening act of a much larger reckoning. Within 24 hours of Derek Walsh's termination, the Grand Meridian incident transforms from isolated discrimination case into a comprehensive examination of systemic racism in the hospitality industry. Amara Sterling's methodical approach to justice unfolds across multiple fronts simultaneously, each action calculated to ensure maximum accountability and lasting change. The legal machinery activates with surgical precision. The discrimination lawsuit filed against Derek personally seeks $2.3 million in damages, exactly $1 for each dollar of Sterling Hospitality Group's annual revenue, a symbolic gesture that sends an unmistakable message about the true cost of bias. The complaint details not just the specific incident, but Derek's 15-year pattern of discriminatory behavior, transforming individual racism into institutional liability. Jessica Anderson faces separate legal action for her role in documenting and celebrating the discrimination through social media. Her posts, which she believed would showcase professional customer service, become evidence of deliberate humiliation and defamation. The lawsuit against her focuses on intentional infliction of emotional distress and violation of civil rights, establishing precedent for holding employees accountable for amplifying discriminatory behavior. The security guards, Steve Morrison and Rick Patterson, discover that their actions carry consequences beyond simple termination. Their security company, which holds multi-million-dollar contracts with Sterling Hospitality Group, faces potential liability for their employees' failure to investigate before acting. Both guards find themselves effectively blacklisted from security work as word spreads through industry networks about their participation in racial discrimination. Corporate investigators, led by former FBI agent David Bennett, uncovered disturbing patterns across the Grand Meridian's operational history. The comprehensive audit reveals that Derek's behavior wasn't an isolated incident, but part of a systematic culture of bias that permeated multiple levels of management. 14 formal discrimination complaints over 5 years paint a picture of institutional failure to address obvious problems. The investigation exposes regional manager Patricia Williams's complicity through inaction. Despite receiving multiple complaints about Derek's behavior, she consistently minimized concerns and prioritized his tenure over employee and guest welfare. Her personnel file reveals a pattern of protecting problematic managers while dismissing complaints from people of color as misunderstandings or communication issues. Sterling Hospitality Group's financial exposure initially appears catastrophic. Stock prices dropped 12% in the first trading day following the incident as investors panic about potential liability and reputational damage. The company faces approximately $4.2 million in immediate costs, legal fees, settlements, crisis management, mandatory retraining programs, and lost revenue from cancellations and boycotts. However, the comprehensive response strategy begins showing positive results within weeks. Amara's transparent handling of the crisis, combined with decisive action against all involved parties, demonstrates corporate accountability rarely seen in discrimination cases. Business schools begin studying the Sterling response as a model for crisis management, while civil rights organizations praise the company's commitment to systematic change rather than superficial damage control. The hospitality industry watches Sterling's response with intense interest and growing alarm. Major hotel chains immediately begin reviewing their own policies and procedures, recognizing that similar incidents at their properties could result in comparable consequences. The American Hotel and Lodging Association requests an emergency meeting with Amara to discuss industry-wide anti-discrimination initiatives. Media coverage evolves from simple incident reporting to comprehensive analysis of systemic bias in service industries. National news networks feature the story as an example of both persistent institutional racism and effective corporate accountability. Amara's measured, professional response earns widespread praise from business leaders and civil rights advocates alike. Social media response amplifies the story's impact exponentially. The hashtag Grand Meridian Justice trends for days as thousands share their own experiences of discrimination in hotels, restaurants, and retail establishments. The incident sparks broader conversations about the daily reality of bias faced by people of color in service settings. Derek Walsh's personal consequences extend far beyond employment termination. His discriminatory behavior becomes widely known throughout the hospitality industry, making him effectively unemployable at any major hotel chain. The financial strain of legal costs forces him to sell his home and significantly downsize his lifestyle. His wife, previously unaware of his workplace conduct, struggles with the public nature of his disgrace and its impact on their children. The security guards face similar industry blacklisting. Their failure to investigate before acting, combined with their use of excessive force against a compliant individual, becomes a case study in security training programs. Both men find themselves working in minimum wage positions after being unable to secure employment in their chosen field. Jessica Anderson's social media expertise becomes a liability as her discriminatory posts follow her to every job interview. Her attempt to delete the content proves futile. Screenshots and video recordings ensure permanent documentation of her participation in systematic humiliation. Sterling Hospitality Group implements the Justice Initiative across all 47 properties within 30 days. The comprehensive program includes mandatory quarterly bias training, anonymous reporting systems for discrimination concerns, third-party audits of hiring and promotion practices, diverse interview panels for management positions, and financial incentives tied to diversity and inclusion metrics. The company establishes a $5 million fund for diversity and inclusion initiatives, including scholarships for hospitality students from underrepresented communities and partnerships with historically Black colleges and universities. The fund also supports research into bias detection technology and best practices for inclusive customer service. Derek's public humiliation in federal court will make his hotel lobby performance look gentle. 6 months after the Grand Meridian incident, Derek Walsh sits in a cramped conference room at the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission headquarters, facing the complete destruction of everything he once considered his life's work. The discrimination hearing, open to media and public attendance, draws civil rights activists, hospitality industry representatives, and curious observers eager to witness accountability in its most public form. Derek's physical transformation reflects his fall from grace. The confident, well-dressed hotel manager has been replaced by a gaunt man in an ill-fitting discount suit, his face bearing the stress lines of someone who has lost not just his career, but his entire sense of identity. His court-appointed attorney, knowing the case is legally indefensible, has advised complete contrition as the only path to minimizing financial damages. Amara Sterling enters the hearing room with the same quiet dignity she maintained during her humiliation 6 months earlier. She wears a navy blue suit that commands respect without ostentation, her presence transforming the sterile government conference room into a courtroom where justice will finally be served. The contrast between her composed professionalism and Derek's obvious distress serves as a visual reminder of how completely their positions have reversed. The hearing begins with video testimony from witnesses whose courage emerged only after Derek's termination. Marcus Thompson, now thriving as the Grand Meridian's assistant general manager, describes the atmosphere of fear that Derek cultivated among employees of color. He made it clear that challenging his decisions would cost us our jobs, Marcus explains via video link. We were forced to choose between our conscience and our survival. Maria Santos provides devastating testimony about Derek's 15-year pattern of discriminatory behavior. I kept a personal notebook documenting incidents because I knew HR wouldn't act, she states, holding up a worn composition book filled with dates, times, and detailed descriptions. I have records of at least 30 separate instances where Mr. Walsh treated guests and employees differently based on race. Former employees who had quit rather than continue working under Derek's management provide the most damaging testimony. 3 former front desk agents, all people of color, describe a hostile work environment where Derek routinely assigned them to less desirable shifts, denied them training opportunities, and subjected them to constant scrutiny that their white colleagues never faced. He would watch us like hawks, explains former agent Keisha Williams, questioning every decision, every interaction with guests. But white employees could make the same mistakes without any consequences. The message was clear: we didn't belong there. Derek's attorney attempts to portray him as a scapegoat for institutional problems beyond his control, arguing that he was simply following established industry practices. However, this defense crumbles when Sterling Hospitality Group's comprehensive policies are introduced as evidence, clearly showing that Derek's actions violated multiple company guidelines and federal anti-discrimination laws. When called to testify on his own behalf, Derek's voice trembles as he tries to construct a defense that acknowledges wrongdoing while minimizing personal responsibility. I thought I was protecting the hotel's reputation, he claims, his words barely audible. I made errors in judgment, but I never intended to discriminate. Hearing Officer Patricia Martinez, a veteran civil rights attorney, has little patience for Derek's evasions. Mr. Walsh, you received 14 formal complaints about discriminatory behavior over 15 years. You had multiple opportunities to examine your conduct and make different choices. This wasn't a single error in judgment. It was a sustained pattern of deliberate discrimination. Derek's attempt to portray the Grand Meridian incident as an isolated misunderstanding falls apart when presented with his social media history. Posts containing coded racist language, shares of discriminatory content, and comments celebrating the exclusion of people of color from upscale establishments create an undeniable picture of systematic bias. These posts show your true beliefs, Mr. Walsh, Officer Martinez continues. They demonstrate that your treatment of Ms. Sterling wasn't an aberration, but a reflection of deeply held prejudices that guided your professional conduct for years. The hearing's climax comes with Amara's personal testimony. She speaks with measured authority about the impact of Derek's actions, extending her analysis beyond personal humiliation to the broader implications for civil rights and human dignity. Mr. Walsh's behavior represents the daily reality for millions of people of color who face discrimination in hotels, restaurants, and service establishments across America, she states. The difference is that I had the resources and platform to fight back. Most victims don't have that luxury. She describes the moment of being dragged from her own hotel. The humiliation was carefully orchestrated to be public and complete. Mr. Walsh wanted to make an example of me, to demonstrate that people like me don't belong in luxury establishments. Instead, he created an example of what happens when discrimination meets accountability. Derek's final attempt at redemption comes through character witnesses who describe his kindness toward white employees and his dedication to customer service. However, their testimony only reinforces the systematic nature of his bias. He was capable of professionalism and respect, but reserved those qualities exclusively for people who looked like him. The hearing concludes with testimony from hospitality industry experts who place Derek's behavior in broader context. Dr. Jennifer Rodriguez, a professor of hospitality management, explains how individual acts of discrimination create hostile environments that extend far beyond single incidents. When managers like Mr. Walsh operate with impunity, they signal to entire organizations that discriminatory behavior is acceptable. Dr. Rodriguez testifies. The damage extends to every employee and guest who witnesses such conduct and learns that bias is tolerated in professional settings. The final judgment is swift and comprehensive. Derek is ordered to pay $850,000 in compensatory damages to Amara Sterling, plus $200,000 in punitive damages designed to deter future discriminatory conduct. The financial judgment will follow him for life, garnishing future wages and preventing him from rebuilding the comfortable lifestyle his hotel management career once provided. As the hearing concludes, Derek attempts to approach Amara for a private conversation, perhaps hoping for personal forgiveness that might provide some psychological relief. She declines with the same professional courtesy she maintained throughout his humiliation of her. Mr. Walsh, you had multiple opportunities to treat me and others with dignity and respect. Those opportunities have passed, she states simply before departing with her legal team. Outside the federal building, Derek faces a small group of reporters seeking final comments. His statement reveals the depth of his continued failure to understand the gravity of his actions. I still don't comprehend how a simple hotel situation escalated to this level. I was just trying to do my job. His inability to recognize systematic discrimination as anything more than a simple hotel situation ensures that his reputation will never recover and that his case will continue serving as a cautionary tale for hospitality professionals nationwide. Derek's personal destruction catalyzes an industry-wide transformation he never could have imagined. 1 year after the Grand Meridian incident, the hospitality industry bears little resemblance to the environment that enabled Derek Walsh's discriminatory behavior. What began as one hotel manager's racist actions has evolved into a comprehensive transformation that reaches every level of service industry operations, from corporate boardrooms to frontline employee training programs. Major hotel chains have implemented sterling standards, comprehensive anti-discrimination policies directly modeled after the reforms Amara Sterling instituted following the incident. Marriott International, Hilton Worldwide, and Hyatt Hotels Corporation have all adopted similar anonymous reporting systems, mandatory bias training protocols, and third-party diversity audits. The American Hotel and Lodging Association has made anti-discrimination certification a requirement for management advancement, fundamentally altering career progression in hospitality. The transformation extends far beyond hotels. Restaurant chains, retail establishments, and service companies across multiple industries have witnessed the financial and reputational consequences of systematic bias and proactively implemented similar accountability measures. The Grand Meridian effect has become business school terminology for the cascading costs of institutional discrimination. Federal courts have established important legal precedents through the Derek Walsh case, cited in over 200 subsequent discrimination lawsuits nationwide. The sterling standard of corporate investigation and response has become the benchmark for appropriate handling of bias complaints, with companies facing increased liability for failing to address patterns of discriminatory behavior. Employee protections have strengthened significantly, with clearer guidelines for reporting discrimination and enhanced penalties for retaliation. Business schools have integrated the Grand Meridian case into mandatory curricula across ethics, management, and organizational behavior programs. Harvard Business School, Wharton, and Stanford Graduate School of Business have developed comprehensive case studies examining both the discrimination incident and Sterling Hospitality Group's systematic response. The case serves as required reading for future managers learning about the business costs of bias and the competitive advantages of inclusive leadership. Hospitality management programs have undergone fundamental restructuring to address bias recognition and cultural competency. The University of Nevada, Las Vegas, Cornell School of Hotel Administration, and other leading programs have partnered with Sterling Hospitality Group to develop training protocols that are now considered industry standards. Graduates enter the workforce with dramatically different expectations about professional conduct and accountability. Technology innovation has accelerated in response to the incident's revelations about systematic bias. Multiple companies have developed artificial intelligence systems that analyze customer service interactions for potential discrimination patterns, monitoring video footage, complaint data, and employee behavior to identify bias before it escalates to legal action. Sterling Hospitality Group has pioneered bias interruption technology that provides real-time coaching to employees when discriminatory behavior is detected. The system has been licensed to other hotel chains and has demonstrated measurable improvements in customer satisfaction across all demographic groups. Early adopters report significant reductions in discrimination complaints and improved employee retention rates. The cultural transformation has proven most significant. Service industry employees report feeling substantially more empowered to address discrimination, understanding that companies now face legal and financial consequences for ignoring their concerns. The Marcus Thompson effect, named after the valet who ultimately found courage to speak up, has created generational change among hospitality workers who recognize that silence enables institutional bias. Customer expectations have evolved equally dramatically. Hotel and restaurant guests now expect visible demonstrations of inclusion through diverse staffing, clear anti-discrimination policies, and accessible complaint procedures. Companies failing to meet these expectations face immediate social media backlash and organized boycotts that can devastate quarterly earnings. Sterling Hospitality Group has maintained its position as the industry's gold standard for inclusive operations. Under Amara Sterling's continued leadership, company properties consistently achieve highest customer satisfaction ratings across all demographic categories. The corporation's stock price has reached record levels, providing concrete evidence that ethical leadership and inclusive practices generate superior financial performance. The Sterling Justice Initiative has expanded internationally, with properties across Europe, Asia, and South America implementing identical anti-discrimination protocols. The program has become a case study for business schools and civil rights organizations worldwide, demonstrating how leadership during crisis can transform corporate culture and entire industries. Educational partnerships have multiplied exponentially. Sterling Hospitality Group now collaborates with over 50 universities to provide internships, scholarships, and career development programs specifically targeting students from underrepresented communities. These initiatives have created a pipeline of diverse hospitality professionals who enter the industry with expectations of inclusion and accountability. Research institutions have documented measurable improvements in service quality and customer satisfaction across properties that have implemented comprehensive anti-discrimination programs. The data demonstrates that inclusive environments benefit all customers, not just those from marginalized communities, creating business incentives for continued reform. Legislative bodies have taken notice of the industry transformation. Congressional committees have held hearings examining discrimination in service industries, with the Grand Meridian case serving as a primary example of both systematic bias and effective corporate accountability. Several states have introduced legislation strengthening anti-discrimination protections and penalties. The industry has transformed, but the personal stories of change reveal the true measure of progress. 2 years after the Grand Meridian incident, Amara Sterling stands in the same hotel lobby where she was once humiliated. But the transformation extends far beyond cosmetic improvements. The marble floors still gleam with their original elegance, yet now they reflect a diverse staff working with authentic pride and purpose. The atmosphere radiates genuine hospitality that emerges only when every individual feels valued and respected regardless of their background.
Marcus Thompson, now the hotel's assistant general manager, greets an elderly African-American couple with the same warmth he wished he could have shown Amara on that fateful afternoon. His journey from frightened valet to confident leader embodies the profound change possible when courage meets opportunity. "Welcome to the Grand Meridian," he says with genuine enthusiasm that reaches his eyes. "We're truly honored to have you stay with us." The young man who once trembled at the thought of challenging authority now conducts orientation sessions for new employees, teaching them to recognize discrimination before it takes root. His story has become legend among hospitality workers, proof that speaking truth to power, though initially costly, ultimately liberates both the speaker and those around them. Maria Santos, promoted to Regional Operations Director, conducts her monthly training session in the conference room where Derek Walsh met his professional end. Her presentation focuses on interrupting bias before it becomes discrimination, drawing from real experiences that give her words authentic weight. "Every interaction is a choice," she tells the assembled managers. "We can create dignity or destroy it. Choose wisely, because those choices define who we are." The woman who once cleaned rooms in silence while witnessing systematic injustice now shapes policy for thousands of employees across multiple properties. Her notebook of documented discrimination incidents has become a training tool, transformed from evidence of institutional failure into a blueprint for institutional reform. Amara walks through the property during her quarterly inspection, noting changes that extend far beyond operational metrics. Guest satisfaction scores have reached unprecedented levels across all demographic groups. Employee turnover has dropped to industry-leading lows as workers discover what authentic respect feels like in professional environments. The hotel has evolved into more than a destination for travelers. It serves as a pilgrimage site for hospitality professionals studying best practices in inclusive service. In the penthouse suite where she was once denied basic human dignity, Amara hosts quarterly meetings with civil rights leaders, business executives, and hospitality industry representatives. They collaborate on expanding the sterling standard to industries where discrimination remains entrenched: retail, banking, healthcare, and education. Sustainable change requires more than good intentions, Amara explains to the assembled group. It demands systematic action, consistent accountability, and the moral courage to confront uncomfortable truths about ourselves and our institutions. The conversation inevitably turns to Derek Walsh, whose cautionary tale has become required reading in business schools nationwide. He now works retail for minimum wage, struggling to rebuild a life shattered by choices that seemed insignificant at the time. His transformation from powerful manager to industry pariah serves as stark reminder that actions carry consequences, even when those consequences arrive years later. "I derive no satisfaction from Derek's downfall," Amara reflects privately with her legal team. But if his story prevents other managers from making similar choices, then perhaps some good emerges from his destruction. Sometimes the greatest service we provide is ensuring that discrimination carries real, lasting costs. As evening approaches, Amara stands at the penthouse window overlooking the city below. The view remains identical to the one Derek once tried to deny her, yet now it represents possibility rather than exclusion. The city lights twinkle with promise, each illumination representing individuals who deserve dignity and respect regardless of their race, gender, or perceived social status. The Grand Meridian Hotel has transcended its original purpose as luxury accommodation to become a symbol of institutional transformation. The incident that began with public humiliation has evolved into a movement spreading throughout hospitality and beyond, touching industries and individuals who never witnessed the original discrimination. Young professionals now enter hospitality careers with fundamentally different expectations and superior preparation. They understand that excellent service means excellent service for everyone, that true hospitality begins with recognizing shared humanity in every guest and colleague they encounter. The transformation is complete,
But the movement continues spreading to places Derek never imagined his choices would reach. As we reach the conclusion of this extraordinary story of justice, transformation, and the ripple effects of accountability, it's crucial to remember that the Grand Meridian incident represents far more than an isolated case study. It serves as a mirror reflecting the daily reality experienced by millions of people who encounter discrimination in hotels, restaurants, retail stores, and workplaces throughout America and beyond. The question that should haunt every viewer is both simple and profound. What would you have done? If you had witnessed Derek Walsh's systematic humiliation of Amara Sterling, would you have found the courage to speak up like Marcus Thompson eventually did? Would you have documented the injustice unfolding before your eyes? Would you have remained silent to protect your own position and financial security? These aren't comfortable questions, but they're absolutely necessary ones that define our character when power meets prejudice. We want to hear your stories. In the comments section below, share your experiences with discrimination in service settings, whether as a witness, victim, or someone who chose to intervene. Your stories matter profoundly because they help others understand that Derek's behavior wasn't an aberration, but part of a pattern requiring all of us to become active participants in the solution rather than passive observers of injustice. The ripple effect continues expanding. Since the Grand Meridian incident gained national attention, over 400 hotels across the country have implemented comprehensive anti-discrimination policies modeled after the Sterling Standard. Dozens of managers have faced termination for discriminatory behavior they once considered normal business practice. Thousands of employees have discovered the power of speaking truth to institutional bias. Yet the transformation remains incomplete, requiring sustained effort and vigilance. Should there be stricter federal penalties for workplace racism? Current legislation allows for significant financial consequences, but many corporations still view discrimination settlements as predictable business expenses rather than catalysts for fundamental change. What additional measures do you believe would effectively prevent bias before it destroys lives and careers? Share your policy recommendations and personal insights about creating lasting accountability. Your voice amplifies this message. Tag someone who needs to hear Amara's story of resilience and strategic justice. Share this content with friends working in hospitality, retail, customer service, or any industry where discrimination persists. Send it to managers and executives who possess the authority to create meaningful change within their organizations. Every person who encounters this story becomes someone who might handle the next situation with greater courage and moral clarity. Join the Marcus Thompson Challenge. We're challenging viewers to commit publicly to speaking up when they witness discrimination, even when intervention feels uncomfortable or professionally risky. Use the hashtag #SpeakUpNow and share your commitment to becoming an active ally in moments that test our humanity. Document your pledge and inspire others to find their voice when silence enables injustice. What's coming next? Our investigative team is currently examining similar incidents across multiple industries, documenting patterns of systematic bias and the corporate responses that either perpetuate or eliminate discriminatory practices. If you have a story about workplace discrimination, consumer bias, or corporate accountability that demands public attention, reach out to us through our contact information. Your experience could become the catalyst for the next wave of institutional transformation. The Sterling Standard spreads globally. Amara Sterling's methodical response to discrimination has evolved into an international model for corporate accountability and inclusive leadership. We're collaborating with business schools, civil rights organizations, and progressive companies to develop comprehensive training programs that prepare leaders to respond effectively when bias threatens their organizational integrity. Remember this fundamental truth. Change happens one story at a time, one person at a time, one moral choice at a time. Derek Walsh's story serves as a cautionary tale about the true cost of prejudice. while Marcus Thompson's journey proves that courage can triumph over fear when individuals choose conscience over comfort. Amara Sterling's response demonstrates that justice delayed is not justice denied when the eventual reckoning is comprehensive and transformative. Which story will you write? The choice remains yours, and the time for action is now. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and activate notification alerts for more stories of justice, accountability, and the transformative power of moral courage. Coming next week. Racist professor mocks black student's thesis. 24 hours later, she's presenting her research to the Nobel Committee. When dignity is denied, justice must be delivered, decisively, comprehensively, and without apology.